And recently, Health Canada said that governments and international bodies around the world are exploring the possibility and the use of vaccine certificates as a tool to support the reopening of societies and economies. And furthermore, they said any similar consideration in the Canadian context would have to be based on reliable scientific evidence. So that is a very interesting statement. Again, if you asked me a year ago, would we have COVID passport? I'd be like, what are you discussing? But now a year later, I think this is a very real thing. And we've already seen the UK discuss this. Boris Johnson, we've seen the EU community discuss of having these COVID passports. You know, the concern is how would that look like? What would a COVID passport look like when it is the provinces who really keep track of immunization records? Elliot, do you have any insight into what that would look like?
Well, I think you're right in raising some ethical concerns. I think there's still a lot to figure out here. I think when someone says vaccine passport, you probably have there are probably one opinion for every person on what that actually means. But to Brock's point earlier, there are lots of countries in the world in which you can't get into unless you have a vaccine for the yellow fever vaccine or other types of vaccine. This is quite common. So again, this might be something that we may not be familiar with on a day-to-day basis, but it's common internationally, and there are sometimes that's going to come to our very shores as well, and we need to be prepared for that. But to your point, lots of questions to answer first, lots of thorny issues to work through. So we're nowhere near the end on this one. I think we're very much at the beginning.
And of course, when I think about how practically the practical implications of such a thing would be, so, okay, fine, you might not be able to visit another country because they have their own health measures, and they're free to implement those. That's their, sovereign right, if you will. But then for Canadians re-entering Canada, will they be required to have a proof of immunizations? I think towards immunocompromised groups of Canadians who simply are unable to obtain vaccines because they don't want to, because they're already immunocompromised. There's secondary health considerations there. We do have conscientious objections within schools for children whose parents decide, we can't for religious grounds or health reasons get a vaccine. They simply get a form signed and that's the end of it. Brock, how would COVID passports, would vaccine passports unduly impact one group versus another?
It probably would. I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all solution. I think Canada needs to advocate for our citizens and make sure that we have a plan. I think our problem has been that we've been slow to the table on having a plan, both federally and provincially, on a lot of these cases.
Well, the interesting news is Canada, we seem to be on an upward trajectory for vaccine delivery. So for those who really want the vaccine, it looks like there's good hope. It's coming faster and faster. Already, as recent as this weekend, I read that 2.4 million doses have been administered, up about 2.4 million. That's quite a lot compared to where we were just a few weeks ago. Things were very slow a few weeks ago. Now we're getting up to speed, if you will, like with the rest of the world on where we should be. But again, I think about the rights of personal privacy. Some people don't want the vaccine. There was research that shows somewhere of up towards 50% of even frontline healthcare workers are concerned about this vaccine. So again, I ask, if there's this much hesitations with vaccines, how could we even be thinking of having a COVID vaccine passport? Elliot?
Well, I mean, just to challenge that premise, I think it's been proven quite clearly globally that these vaccines are safe and reliable and do its job of reducing the chances of going into a hospital and death. So I think from the medical side of things, they are clearly effective and doing their job. Whether there are other questions around do people want to take them, and are there other reasons why they may not want to take them? That's understandable, and I think that's an issue that we've faced in the past, and it's going to be one that we face with COVID vaccine as well. But as I said earlier, we're at the beginning of this vaccine passport journey. Other countries are moving quickly, and the challenge is if we don't get on board quickly enough, we may miss that train. And in a world where things are moving quickly, Canada also needs to keep up.